Father-in-law Kaido's monster cells create the strongest beasts. 171. The aggrieved Blackbeard, Magellan died, and Buggy became the 4 emperors. Blackbeard is really not reconciled. In his eyes, the darkness and murderous intent of ultimate flashed, and his fists were clenched tightly. He stared at Luo Xing closely, as if he wanted to wait for Luo Xing to reveal some flaws, and then launched a sneak attack, killing Luo Xing with one blow. That way, everything would be solved. Everything became his Blackbeard home again. However, he failed to find any opportunity after all. Although the man looked extremely sloppy, there was no weakness in his entire body. In addition to the weakness of rashness and conceit, Blackbeard's physical skills and perception of knowledge are actually quite not weak. Otherwise, he couldn't scratch the Redhead shank's eyes without the fruit power. Moreover, Blackbeard never sleeps, and in terms of cultivation time, he is twice as long as ordinary people. So, he could roughly sense the domineering aura emanating from Luo Xing. He was a fellow with red hair who was good at conquerors. He mainly practiced Haki 277. To be honest, what Blackbeard finds the most difficult is this type of powerhouse. Because dark fruit can nullify the abilities of those who are capable, but such strong ones don't eat the fruit at all. And their powerful armament Haki is also very restrained by Logia devil fruit. In general, Blackbeard predicts that his chances of winning against Luo Xing are not very big. Not to mention, Luo Xing also has Aura and Enlil, 2 strong men who could challenge the 4 emperors admiral. Oh, and now a Share of Rain is added. In addition, Luo Xing's various heaven-defying inventions, not to mention more, figured this out, and after intense mental struggles, Blackbeard made the same decision as Alabaster. Children, let's go. After all, he walked out of Impel down with a gloomy face. Badgers exclaimed from behind, Captain, did you just leave like this? Damn it. My uncle is so unwilling. Why don't you fight that guy? Blackbeard was suppressing depression and anger in his heart. When he heard this, he was immediately furious and cursed. If you can win, you can fight. I'm here waiting for your good news. 35. Badgers immediately shrank his neck and was cancelled. Although he didn't see Luo Xing's shot just now, he saw the battle between Zora and Enlil with his own eyes. With only these 2 people, Badgers has no confidence that he can win. The navigator Lafayette was a bit more brainy, and sighed. The odds are indeed too small. There is no way to leave, and you have to leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the 5 emperors Luo Xing and the others take care of Magellan, we will be in danger. 5. Although Blackbeard has been thinking about whether to take action on Luo Xing, but the truth is, Luo Xing will most likely shoot at Blackbeard after he gets rid of Magellan. Yuang Luo Xing, that man is a ruthless man who acts decisively and has no mercy at all. Blackbeard knew this, so he flashed before Magellan was over. However, although this is the best choice, it is too embarrassing. Compared with the high spirits when they came, the Blackbeard pirates at this moment are undoubtedly extremely depressed. Blackbeard could only hold back his anger. He couldn't let such a depressed atmosphere spread through the team. Otherwise, what can be done in the future? With an ugly smile on Blackbeard's face, he raised his arms and shouted, Little ones, Impel Down is just a small part of Lao Tzu's plan. It doesn't matter if you lose it. The biggest one is Summit War, Whitebeard's Shock Fruit. As long as he can acquire the ability of Shock Fruit, Lao Tzu can become the strongest in the world in an instant. When the time comes, let's find Wu Huang Luo Xing and even Kaido of the Beasts to settle accounts. Only then did the Black Group members get a little bit more emotional. They had just come to Impel Down from Marineford, and after a while they were back in despair. Luo Xing glanced at the direction that Blackbeard and others left. It ran pretty fast. If Blackbeard continues to stay here, Luo Xing does plan to obliterate Blackbeard by the way. Although the particularity of dark fruit does not necessarily deny success. After all, dark fruit should correspond to the sun god Nika fruit, and I am afraid they both possess some extremely special abilities. If there is a chance, I really want to give it a try. While thinking about it, Luo Xing said to Zora, Enlil, and Share of the Rain who had just surrendered, come on the 3 of you together and get rid of Magellan. Although Magellan is strong, facing the siege of the 3 powerhouses, he soon fell into a precarious end. But he was still unyielding and roared again and again. He even used the ability to awaken the poisonous fruit, turning the entire 4th floor of Impel Down into an ocean of poison. What a troublesome ability. Luo Xing couldn't help but sigh. It would be nice to have Magellan under his command, but unfortunately that's not possible. Facing Magellan's poisonous sea, Zora, Enlil, and Share also felt extremely troublesome, and they almost lost their footing. Fortunately, Luo Xing used 10 supergiants with the King of Biceps before, and there are still 7 or 8 people left. Luo Xing made all the giants, together with their fists, bombard Magellan's sea of poison. Boom! An incomparably huge crash sounded, and violent waves surged up in the sea of poison. Immediately, the ground on the 4th floor collapsed, and the battlefield came to the 5th floor. However, the criminals on the 4th and 5th floors have all seen this terrifying battle. They were terrified and pale, for fear that venom or thunder or sword chi would spread to them. And with Luo Xing's hessian tone, when asked if they would like to submit to the 100 beasts, these criminals knelt down with great discernment and shouted, I am willing to surrender my lord to the beast's pirates. Of course, there are also a few Langtuking who are not afraid of death, standing without kneeling. The result, of course, was that the surrendered criminals swarmed up and was torn to shreds. Luo Xing successfully subdued the criminals on the 3rd, 4th and 5th floors of Impel Down, with more than 1,000 troops under his command. Don't look at the number of them, but everyone is a strong player, and there is no weaker. Their own strength is more than 50 million bounty, and after eating the monster cells rewarded by Luo Xing, their strength has doubled. Rough estimate, there are 600 or 700 people with a bounty of over 100 million, 200 or 300 people with a bounty of about 300 million, and a dozen people with a bounty of 500 million. This terrifying combat power is enough to match a 4 Emperor's regiment. And this, not counting the monsters on the 6th floor of Impel Down. Luo Xing looked at these subordinates with satisfaction. With these people and Moria's army of zombies, it's definitely not a problem to take down Buddy. Luo Xing suddenly found that he did not find a red nose in this group of people. Luo Xing muttered in his heart, Clown Buggy, the lucky guy who will become the 4 Emperors in the future, shouldn't have been trampled to death in the first 2 floors of 5.4. Hey, probably because of me. He may not have been locked into Impel Down. The Clown Buggy really wasn't locked up in Impel Down, because Smoker, the smoker who was supposed to arrest him, went to the G5 branch early, and Buggy was lucky to be able to continue in East Blue. It is said that after the defeat of Aunt Kaido in the original book, the 2 newly appointed 4 emperors, one is the sun god Luffy, and the other is the Clown Buggy. This made Luo Xing have to wonder if Buggy is really weak, or has been pretending to be weak. He'd have to catch Buggy if he got a chance and stab him with a knife. These are later stories. It can only be said that under the siege of Red Earl, Zora, and more than 1,000 powerful criminals from Impel Down, Magellan was unable to resist after all. He was completely killed and his body sank into the sea. Luo Xing didn't even look at Magellan, and took the newly recruited subordinates directly to the 6th floor of Impel Down, Eternal Hell. 172. Luo Xing's Haki, coercing Eternal Hell, killing Byrnndi Waldo with 1 sword. Between the 5th and 6th floors of Impel Down, there is actually a 5.5 floor. This is a tunnel created by Mori, one of the 4 major commanders of the Revolutionary Army, with the Paramecia Tush fruit. Later, it was occupied by Ivankov, another cadre of the Revolutionary Army, and built it into New Karma Land. Most of the prisoners who disappeared mysteriously in the Impel Down in the past broke into here unintentionally and were turned into Shemels by Ivankov. Ivankov is a hormone fruit person with Shikibukai level strength. He had long sensed that a huge battle fluctuation was taking place in Impel Down. Ivankov watched carefully from the mezzanine of the wall. He saw with his own eyes Luo Xing subduing Impel Down's criminals, and Luo Xing's subordinates actually killed Impel Down's demon warden Magellan. Ivankov gasped, terrified. Although I have been in prison, I have also heard the name of the 5 emperors Luo Xing, and it's really scary. He killed Magellan and released all the criminals immediately. The vicious guys on the 6th floor will probably be subdued by him. 35. Once these people go out, the world will be in chaos, and the power of the beast's pirates will skyrocket. 18. I must tell the dragon this important news quickly. Ivankov slipped away quietly. Except for the final 6th floor, the rest of Impel Down was destroyed by Luo Xing, which gave Ivankov a chance to escape. Ivankov quickly came to the 1st floor, and without saying a word, he found a small boat and went straight to Baldigo, the island of white soil, the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. What he didn't know was that Luo Xing had already noticed him. It is also known that there is a fairyland between the 5th and 6th floors. Luo Xing was not merciful and deliberately let Ivankov go. He couldn't bear to look at Ivankov at all, for fear of getting his eyes dirty. What kind of fairyland is a terrifying place that is even more hell than hell? Luo Xing got goosebumps just thinking about it. Luo Xing loves beautiful women very much, and a beautiful woman is like a gorgeous flower and a graceful bird. He likes to collect them, hold them in his arms, and possess them completely. And Shemels and so on. Hurry up and die far away, as far as you go. Luo Xing felt a rare sigh of relief when he noticed that Ivankov's breath had disappeared. He really didn't want to dirty his eyes, and he didn't want to dirty his Yangmo. Quickly regaining his composure, Luo Xing brought Zora, Enlil, Shuru, and more than 1,000 tough newbies to the 6th floor. The 6th floor holds the most vicious criminals in history. Some people have committed so many crimes that even the existence of their names has been erased by the world government. Their strength is far from being comparable to that of the prisoners on the upper floors. When Luo Xing brought everyone to the 6th floor, several ghostly green eyes immediately fell on him like knives. Gigi, I smell the strong scent of blood. Shouldn't you kill all the people above? 99. The speaker had a rough voice and a ferocious face. Shuru thought that Luo Xing did not know this person, and Shuru had just joined 100 beasts, and wanted to show his worth. So he preemptively shouted to the man, pay attention to your words, Abaro Pizarro. The lord in front of you, but the young master of the beast's pirates, is recognized by the world as the fifth emperor of the sea. The person who just spoke was the evil King Pizarro. Hearing Shuri's words, not only Pizarro was surprised, but the rest of the big criminals were also quite surprised. Even these vicious fellows, they all know how terrible the Emperor of the Sea is. Among them, there are only 2 people at most, and they cannot be afraid of the Emperor of the Sea. One was the Red Earl, Redfield, who closed his eyes and held his breath, as if he had already died, and had no idea what was going on outside. The Red Earl is a legendary figure on par with Roger and Whitebeard, and even Kaido is strictly speaking his descendant. Therefore, the young master of the 100 beasts and the 5 sovereigns of the sea, the Red Earl did not pay any attention at all. He didn't even bother to open his eyes. The other is Douglas Bullet, a former crew member of One Piece Roger, known as the Devil's Descendant. Unlike Earl Red's indifference, Bullet was very curious about Luo crossing. He looked at Luo Xing with a cold expression, his eyes filled with a bloodthirsty taste. In an entire Impel down 6th floor, only these 2 can be called top powerhouses, and can be compared with the 4 Emperor's Admiral. The rest are still weaker than the top powerhouses. Compared with other criminals who have been imprisoned here for many years, Haki Jinbei has just arrived here not long ago. Jinbei knows more about Luo crossing. The title of the 5 Emperors of the Sea is not enough to describe Luo crossing. The scariest thing about this man is his heaven-defying inventions, each of which is enough to change the world. Vegapunk, who has a technological mind that surpassed the world's 500 years, is not as good as this man in this respect. This time, this man also possesses a deep and insightful wisdom. Dressrosa's fairy bin auction, including the 4 emperors, marine, world government, has played the entire sea. This time, it is even more unimaginable. When Dad Whitebeard and Marine started Summit War, this man suddenly appeared on the 6th floor of Impel Down. Jinbei couldn't help feeling astonished at the implication of this. The 6th floor suddenly fell into an eerie silence. 277 Luo Crossing's faint voice broke the silence. Whoever surrenders lives, whoever rejects dies. Choose, everyone. 39. The words were crisp and clear, without the slightest sloppiness. In the face of so many vicious criminals, Jinbei can't help but marvel at his calm and dignified grandeur. A sneering voice sounded, "Submit, boy, who do you think we are?" Even the world government didn't let Lao Tzu surrender, so it's up to you. Luo Xing glanced at the source of that sneer. Yanmo suddenly unsheathed. The mighty Haki oppresses the eternal hell. Even the Red Earl and Bullet felt a heavy pressure and suddenly descended. A huge pitch-black sword light slashed out. The sneering man was directly dismembered, his eyes widened with anger, as if he couldn't believe that his body had become 2 petals. Other criminals couldn't believe it, because the dead guy was Byrnndi Waldo, known as the World Destroyer. In the 6th floor where the powerhouses are like clouds, they also belong to the top powerhouses in the ranking. But he was instantly killed by Luo Xing's sword. Luo Xing swept the body of Byrnndi Waldo lightly, his face expressionless, as if he killed a trivial ant. He holds the Inma, like the demon king who reigns in hell. Luo Xing said indifferently, "There are people who are not satisfied. Stand up." 173. The loneliness of Red and the rebellious Bullet, Momousagi's curiosity. In the 6th floor eternal hell, the strong names that can be counted are, Red Count, Bullet, Jinbei, King of Bad Government, Crescent Hunter Catherine Demai, Huge Battleship San Juan Bad Wolf, Great Barrel Basque Cho 8, and Byrnndi Waldo's, whose body has been split in half. These 8 people are Luo Xing's main targets for Impel Down this time. They are all well-known giants and evil pirates, and they became famous far earlier than Luo Crossing. Therefore, Luo Xing didn't expect that the rebellious villains would all surrender. Those who do not want to surrender will die. Luo Xing will not talk nonsense. He held Yanmo and swept over the remaining 7 people with cold eyes. The deep conqueror's coercion, and the majesty of the emperor released from the inside out, made the gang of vicious guys feel awe-inspiring in their hearts. Even Earl Red, who didn't take Luo Xing seriously at first, finally opened his old eyes in surprise. Seeing Luo Xing's appearance and aura, Earl Red was even more astonished. The old man felt wrong earlier. This young man is not simple, and he has the illusion of seeing Roger and Whitebeard back then. Roger and Whitebeard were still young and in their prime. With every gesture, Haki revealed, Megatron all over the world. The young junior in front of him reminded the Red Earl vaguely of the scene back then. He didn't dare to despise Luo Xing any longer, and his expression became solemn. After Luo Xing's voice fell, no one responded. But looking at the expressions of the evil king, the Crescent Hunter, the big wine barrel, and the huge battleship, they already showed a little willingness to surrender. Luo Xing just killed Byrnndi Waldo with one sword, showing a stronger strength than them. No wonder Shura of Rain, this arrogant guy, would be willing to be his subordinate. And behind Luo Xing stood the beasts group, the strongest creature, Kaido of the beasts. In any respect, they would not be ashamed to submit to Luo Xing, and there would be many benefits. Luo Xing saw the movement of these 4 people, and there was no surprise in his heart. After all, these 4 people surrendered to Blackbeard in the original work, and now it is a matter of course to surrender to him who is stronger and stronger. Luo Xing's eyes swept across Jinbei, the seaman, and he had other options for Jinbei. Luo Xing looked at Red and Bullet. Both of them were top powerhouses, and both were once one of the overlords of the sea, especially the Red Earl, who dared to compete with Roger and Whitebeard alone. If possible, Luo Xing would very much like to subdue these two, adding two high-end fighting forces to the 100 beasts, and in the future, he will be more able to fight against the world government. However, it is impossible for a character at the level of a maritime overlord to be as easy to settle as the four evil kings. They were arrogant. Even in the face of Luo Xing's death threat, they still sneered proudly. The Red Earl stroked his beard and said, "Little devil, you are indeed a bit extraordinary. But you are too ignorant to let this old man surrender." Even Roger and Whitebeard are not qualified for this. The solitary Red Earl of Red never yielded to others in his life. If he dared to compete with Roger and Whitebeard, how could he surrender to the junior Luo Xing? Not to mention Luo Xing is the Five Emperors. Even if he is one piece, the Red Earl is still aloof. Bullet's tone was much more ferocious than Earl Red's. He grabbed and closed the iron fence with both hands, causing a sensation on the ground. Bullet stared at Luo Xing with a bloodthirsty expression on his face, and grinned. "I only believe in my own strength. Even when I was on Roger's ship, I was just trying to beat him. Boy, what I want to do now is to blow you up, and then blow up Kaido of the beasts, rather than submit to shit." 99. What 5 emperors 4 emperors? Lao Tzu is the strongest in this world. Unsurprisingly, neither of the two top powerhouses had the slightest willingness to surrender. Bullet even wanted to kill Luo Xing and even Luo Xing's old father-in-law Kaido to prove that he was the strongest. Luo Xing's dark eyes flashed coldly. "If that's the case, then ask the two of you to go down and accompany Byrnndi Waldo too." 99. Bullet laughed up to the sky. "Gee ha ha ha. Boy, do you think Lao Tzu is Byrndi's trash?" 55. During the decades of Impel Down, I have never stopped cultivating. Now I am stronger than I was then. Furthermore, your fight on the top just now has destroyed the cage here, and I can no longer be bound here." Bullet laughed more and more crazily, and the bloodthirsty taste in his eyes became stronger and stronger. His stout arms were like hills, and his muscles were bulging high, and his mighty strength even lifted the iron fence that imprisoned him. The chains that bound him were easily broken by him. He can do high-intensity workouts in prison, and these chains are useless to him. The reason why Bullet can't escape here is mainly because of the iron fence made by sea stone. As demon fruit power, he can't break it. But just now Luo Xing used the supergiant made by the King of Biceps, and the final blow destroyed the foundation of the entire Impel Down, making the cage on the 6th floor unstable. It is no longer possible to restrain a top powerhouse like Bullet. Of course, the Red Earl could not be restrained either. What's more, the Red Earl has not eaten the bat fruit, the phantom beast, and the vampire form. He is not yet capable and cannot be restrained by sea stone. The two top powerhouses both came out of the cage and released Conqueror's Haki. It collided with Luo Xing's Conquerors, and immediately formed a three-legged situation. Buzz. In the air, there are countless black currents passing through. The pressure, even heavier than before, made everyone present stagnate for an instant. The criminals who were still imprisoned, such as Jinbei and the King of Bad Administration, were shocked. A battle higher than their level. I am afraid it is about to break out. At the same time, Holy Land Marineford. The crane arrived here without stopping. She first met with her old boss, former Marine Marshal Kong. The crane passed the Yuang Luo Xing through a strange door, and the news of Impel Down suddenly came to Kong and told Kong. Kong, who was almost 100 years old, stood up in shock. Although he is old, his mind is not confused, and he knows that this matter is at stake and that the whole Impel Down is at risk of being destroyed. Without saying a word, Kong took the crane to the right and met the 5 elders. The 5 elders were immediately enraged and slapped the table. How did that guy get to Impel Down? 39. There is a gate of justice on the sea, and eyeliners are placed in the sky. How could he be easily invaded? Crane said worriedly. It's that strange door. It should be some kind of space passage that allows people to travel directly from one place to another. 5 elders, you can't handle this now. The most urgent task is to send someone to support Impel Down immediately, otherwise the consequences will be unimaginable. The 5 elders were so furious that they were gnashing their teeth. That abominable 5 Emperor Luo Xing. Sooner or later one day he will be smashed to pieces. 5 elders suppressed their anger and said, "We will send CP0 out." Marine is fighting against Whitebeard, so I can't count on it. Kong, you can take some people from other departments and act with CPO. Kong is also a decisive person, he said without any hesitation. To Zhao Zhao, the old man will let Kaji go with Giant. The 5 elders' expression softened slightly. 2 Admiral alternates, plus CP0. Even if we can't catch that person, there must be no problem in protecting Impel Down. Not long after returning to Marineford, CP0 was dispatched again, and the opponent was Luo Xing. The boss of CP0 has bitterness in his heart and cannot speak Chinese. He had already fully seen Luo Xing's terrifying strength in Saibadi, and he had no confidence that he could defeat him. Whether the task of guarding Impel Down can be completed this time, the boss of CP0 has no idea at all. Giant, codenamed the Momousagi, looked at CP0 boss's frowning expression in surprise. She knows how powerful this person is. In the past, no matter what the task was, the CPO members led by the boss of CP0 could complete it beautifully. And this time, the boss of CP0 frowned and looked unsure, which was really shocking. Momousagi couldn't help but be curious. What kind of man is Luo Xing? The fifth emperor, who makes the boss of CP0 extremely jealous, and Dr. Vegapunk, who makes her Momousagi very respectful. Ashamed? 174. Jinbei joined the 100 Beasts. The top 8 besieged the Red Earl, Luo Xing vs Bullet. Add 5 elders. Kong sent all the members of CP0, plus 2 Admiral alternates Momousagi and T-Dolphin. With all of Marine's troops being contained by the Whitebeard pirates, he can still deploy such a powerful force. In this sea, only the world government can do it. CPO, Momousagi, and T-Dolphin all rushed to Impel Down, but their mission was doomed to fail because the entire Impel Down had been destroyed. When both Red Earl and Bullet came out of their cages and released conquerors to collide with Luo Xing, let the land basically be destroyed. A lot of Impel Down, more and more precarious. Bullet looked at the crumbling Impel Down. His feet slammed on the ground, and his body immediately shot upwards like a cannonball. Dong dong dong. The buildings a few floors above Impel Down were directly smashed by Bullet's iron head. The surrounding walls were also damaged, and endless sea water poured in. This 6th floor is about to be filled with sea water and can no longer stay. Luo Xing glanced at the King of Evil, the Moonlight Hunter, the Big Wine Barrel, and the huge battleship. The 4 immediately showed submissive expressions and expressed their willingness to surrender. Luo Xing asked Shura to let them all go. In the end, only Hakuya Jinbei was left. Although Jinbei did not surrender, Luo Xing unchained the chains himself, which surprised Jinbei. Jinbei said, "The old man doesn't seem to have any friendship with you, and never had any dealings with you beasts pirates." Luo Xing smiled slightly. "No friendship now, doesn't mean no friendship in the future." Luo Xing certainly didn't condescend because he valued Jinbei. He was for Shirahoshi, the mermaid princess. Luo 277 had already planned, and when Saipadi Archipelago was completely in control, he immediately went to the Fishmen Island and included the Fishmen Island into the sphere of influence of the 100 Beasts. As the leader of the Murlocs, Jinbei is very necessary to gain his favor. It is very beneficial to conquer the Fishmen Island in the future, especially to gain the trust of the mermaid princess Shirahoshi. Luo Xing wouldn't tell Jinbei about this kind of thought, but said meaningfully, "The Whitebeard pirates and Marine have started an all-out war, and no matter what the outcome is, your future, the Fishmen Island, will be very difficult. The Fishmen Island is bound to join another 4 Emperor's regiment to seek shelter. Instead of looking for someone else, look for my 100 Beasts." 35. Add. In the original, after Bai Tuan was destroyed, the Fishmen Island joined the Ants' camp. In order to save the innocent and lovely Princess Shirahoshi, and prevent the madwoman from crying, Luo Xing said it was his duty to cut his beard. Jinbei didn't expect Luo Xing to have such a purpose. He was silent. I had to admit that what the other party said was right. If the Fishmen Island hadn't taken shelter from the New World 4 Emperors, it would have been turned upside down by countless pirates. Speaking of which, Jinbei in the original book is a bit unkind. In order to protect the Fishmen Island, he volunteered to join the Big Mom group. As a result, as soon as the Straw Hat Boy came, he immediately betrayed, and he even uttered the rhetoric of 4 Emperors. It can only be said that although Jinbei is a good person, he is by no means as kind as he looks on the surface. Jinbei finally bowed his head and agreed to join the 100 Beasts. Bife. After all, the 100 Beasts group is now a 4 Emperors group that is stronger than the White group. With the protection of the 100 Beasts group, it is definitely the best for the Fishmen Island. In this way, the powerhouses of Impel Down the 6th floor of Eternal Hell, except for Red Earl and Bullet, and the dead Byrnndi Waldo, all the other 5 surrendered. Luo Xing is in a good mood. He was in a good mood and decided to give Red Earl and Bullet a treat. With a total of 8 powerful subordinates including Zora, Enel, Shura, Jinbei, the King of Evil, and more than 1,000 criminals who had been augmented by monster cells, Luo Xing came to the ground on the 1st floor of Impel Down. Red Earl and Bullet are waiting for him there. The Red Earl had his hands behind his back and his eyes were solitary. Bullet has a fierce back and a fierce look. Seeing Luo Xing, Bullet immediately laughed wildly. "Come on, boy. Let me see if your name of the 5 Emperors of the Sea is enough." 39. As a mediocre scientist, Luo Xing doesn't like to be beaten to death. But at this moment, it is obviously necessary to make a move. Luo Xing intends to resolve the fight as soon as possible. He reckoned that reinforcements from the 5 Elders or Marines should have already been sent, and a quick solution was needed. Therefore, Luo Xing didn't bother to talk nonsense with Bullet and Earl Red anymore, and said directly to the Zoro 8 behind him, "Come on together, kill the Red Earl, and hand the bullet to me." As soon as these words came out, the Red Earl, who had always been aloof and indifferent, immediately changed his face. What's the matter? 8 people besieged me, an old man of 7 or 8 years, and why don't you talk about martial arts? It was difficult for the Red Earl to remain calm. His body is already aging, and his strength is actually no longer at its peak. The strongest aspect of Red Count is observation Haki. He can even read the enemy's memory with observation Haki. Therefore, he could sense how powerful the 8 people who were going to besiege him were. The guy with the green algae head with 3 swords and the grey body, and Shuraru, the former's great guard of the Impel down, can challenge him. The remaining 5, Jinbei, Bizaru, and Catherine Demai, are also the strongest among the strong. Being besieged by these 8 people, he is more fortunate than fortunate. But Earl Red still had no idea of surrendering to Luo Xing. He is arrogant and would rather die standing than live on his knees. This is probably the quality of everyone who can become a sea hegemon. It is a pity that in the face of the general situation of Huangwang, even if the former maritime hegemony tried to resist, he would only end up being crushed. Zora, Enlil, Shuraru shot 8 attack from 8 directions. Even though Earl Red's knowledge was unparalleled in the world, he still had a feeling that he didn't know what to do because the attacks of the 8 people were calculated. Every possible escape route for him was blocked. The Red Earl had no choice but to resist, and with his aging blood, how long can he resist it? From the very beginning, in this battle, the Red Earl was a surefire situation. Bullet also saw the desperate situation of Earl Red, and his face looked a little ugly. Not because he was worried about Earl Red, but because Luo Xing sent all his powerful men to besiege Earl Red and dealt with him alone. Bullet thinks it's contempt for him. Boy, you are very confident in your own strength. Bullet said in a cold tone, I reminded you before, I was stronger than before. 39. Luo Xing's face did not fluctuate at all. He said lightly, stop talking nonsense like this. I'm running out of time, so please hurry up and die. Mr. Bullet. While talking, he raised Yanmo high, and then fell. Purgatory Shura. A black sword wave with a size of dozens of meters slashed towards the bullet at an incredible speed. This is an attack that entangles conquerors, and the speed is so fast that it is impossible to evade even if the future can be foreseen. Bullet's pupils contracted violently. He didn't expect Luo Xing to use such a big move, and it seemed that he really planned to kill him as soon as possible. You bastard, how dare you underestimate Lao Tzu? Bullet was furious. He is conceited, and the most intolerable thing is to be looked down upon by others. Break it for Lao Tzu. Bullet let out a roar, and the frenzied armament Haki covered both hands, mercilessly pinching Luo Xing's black sword wave. Bullet's physique is monster level, with infinite strength. Haki and other aspects have almost no weaknesses. But he still underestimated Luo Xing's tyrannical sword technique. When Luo Xing used this move for the first time, he slashed the Golden Lion, and at that time his strength was not as good as it is now. Bullet was forced to step back by the black sword wave, with blue veins on his forehead. Obviously he was using his strength to suckle. No. The power and Haki alone can't stop it, and I can only use the ability of the fusion fruit. Bullet felt very embarrassed. He couldn't break the sword wave with his hands. The loud roar he just roared was like hitting himself in the face. Bullet was angrily urging the power of the fusion fruit, and immediately attracted the ground under his feet and the warships on the sea not far away, and merged with him into a robot. Finally, the black sword wave was completely blocked, but before he could catch his breath, he heard Luo Xing's indifferent voice again. Purgatory, Hades, 35. Zheng. It was actually a black sword wave that was 10 times bigger than the one just now, and was several hundred meters in size. Bullet was genuinely shocked. Has the fusion of that guy's sword skills and Conqueror's entanglement reached such a terrifying level? Boom. This time, Bullet didn't have time to resist, and was directly hit by the front, and was blasted out. The combined robot shattered. Bullet spewed blood. A slashed scar appeared on his chest, and rolled to the ground. Cough. Poof. 5. Bullet vomited blood again, obviously not badly injured. He struggled to stand up from the ground. His face was already extremely ugly. 175. Rayleigh's incredible fusion of the entire Impel down Bullet. Super Big Mac. Bullet didn't think that Luo Xing really didn't take him seriously. It was Conqueror's top trick, and every move is stronger than every move, and he has been seriously injured just after the fight. Bullet couldn't help but think of a scene when he challenged One Piece Roger. Roger is not an ability person either, and his main training is Haki and sword skills. Back then, Roger, just like Luo Xing just now, swung a few sword chi and easily defeated him. Damn, I still can't compare to Roger. No, it's impossible. I have never stopped exercising in the past few decades, and my strength is obviously stronger. Lao Tzu is the one standing at the top of this world. The blood-soaked Bullet suddenly burst out like a ghost mist. His eyes became red, and his skin was scarlet like blood. The ground began to unsteady and trembled. The sea also began to roll violently, setting off huge waves. Luo Xing frowned slightly, vaguely guessing what Bullet was going to do. Bullet is a person who has the ability to combine fruit, and has developed the fruit of fusion to an awakened state. he can combine an island into himself. The size of Impel Down is about equal to an island. Bullet clearly wants to assimilate the entire Impel Down and transform into the towering giant in the frenzy action. Luo Xing glanced at Earl Red. After all, the Red Earl was old, and he had not eaten the bat fruit. The phantom beast, facing the siege of the 8 powerhouses. He would soon lose his support. In a minute or two, you will be defeated. Luo Xing took out several random doors and said to the more than 1,000 subordinates behind him that he had just subdued, go in one by one, and at Saibadi land, both marines and pirates are killed, but the civilians must not be disturbed at will. In fact, there are not many civilians in Saibadi. It is the place where the pirates go to the New World, and the place where celestial dragons often do evil. Which commoner doesn't want to live and has to live there? Except for ordinary old people like Pluton Rayleigh. On the Saibadi archipelago, most of them are various strongholds, taverns, casinos, etc. established by the kings of the major underground world. Such as the slave auction house that once belonged to Doflamingo. Luo Xing wants to occupy the land of Saibadi, and naturally he must clear all the eyeliners of these forces. An army of more than 1,000 criminals, whose lives and wealth are all in the hands of Luo Crossing. And they had just witnessed Luo Xing killing World Destroyer Byrnndi Waldo with one sword, and severely wounding the Devil's Air Bullet with 2 swords. He was already in awe of Luo Xing. How dare he be disobedient, and obediently walked into the arbitrary door. Then, they were shocked. Opposite any door, it turned out to be the beautiful Saibadi archipelago. It's like coming from hell to heaven in an instant. The criminals were not only in awe of Luo Xing, but also admired and worshipped Luo Xing. Lord Luo Xing, who can invent this kind of door that instantly crosses the space distance, is a man like a god. On the Saibadi archipelago, Pluton Rayleigh and his companion Haki were also shocked. The two of them had planned to leave Saibadi land. However, he suddenly found that several doors appeared out of thin air on the ground, and a ferocious guy poured out from the door. These guys are still wearing prison uniforms, and they all seem to be prisoners of Impel Down in the big prison. Rayleigh's eyes widened. The big underwater prison Impel Down, known as the Iron Wall. How could so many criminals escape all at once? But then it dawned on him, because he saw Luo Xing's figure inside the door from the open door. Rayleigh's heart shook. It's this man again. He actually went to Impel Down and captured the criminals of Impel Down. This door is probably his new invention, but what did he send these criminals to Saibadi? Rayleigh's pupils shrank suddenly. Could it be that he wants to take over the entire Saibadi archipelago? This guess made Rayleigh feel incredible, even a little trance. To know, the location of the Saibadi archipelago is just below the red line, just a stone's throw away from the marine headquarters and the holy site of Marie-Joyce. If the 100 beasts really occupied this place, it would be like putting a sword on the chest of Marine and the world government, and it would stab into their hearts at any time. Neither Marine nor the world government will tolerate this. They're going to go crazy and send all their power to retake Saibadi. Luo Xing, that man, is he ready to fight against the whole world government? Fighting against the whole world government is tough. Even the Roger pirates of the past can't do it, and no force in the whole sea can do it. That's where Rayleigh feels incredible. And Luo Xing is not a stupid man, since he dares to do this. He must be sure. Rayleigh took a deep breath, knowing that the world was about to go haywire. Compared to this chaos, even the summit's war between Whitebeard and Marine is nothing. Rayleigh to Haki, get out of here quickly, otherwise the 5 emperors Luo Xing will arrive. With that man's means, the old man and the 2 may not be able to leave safely. 5. Even if the criminal core didn't come to Saibadi, Rayleigh planned to leave. He was going to the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. When Buffalo Mukima slapped Luffy, he took his last breath and told him where Luffy was going. The 2 former crew members of One Piece left here without looking back. Ask for flowers. Impel Down. After sending off the newly recruited subordinates, Luo Xing confronted Bullet again. At this time, Bullet has already merged with most of the Impel Down fortress. He has turned into a huge giant thousands of meters high. Boom. The earth is crumbling, and the waves are roaring violently. Bullet laughed wildly. I'm the strongest. You all die. Zora, Enel, Shuru, Jinbei, King of Evil, Crescent Hunter, Big Barrel, huge battleship finally solved the Red Earl. Looking back at the giant bullets, they all took a deep breath. This is too big. Enel, who has always been conceited, opened his mouth in shock. The huge battleship Samuan Evil Wolf with a height of more than 100 meters said, 100 times bigger than me. Shuru of the Rain smoking a cigar. This guy has developed the fruit of fusion to an unprecedented level, and he is in his prime. He has not stopped exercising during his sentence. It is not comparable to the old Red Earl. Let's go and help Lord Luo Xing. Shuru had just joined Luo Xing, and it was the time when he wanted to express himself. Killing a Red Earl was done by 8 people together, and the credit was too small. No need. Zora put away the 3 knives, and said firmly, since Lord Luo Xing said to hand it over to him, if we intervene, it will only be a disservice. Among the 8 people, Zora knows Luo Xing the most. Mr. Luo Xing never speaks lies. All the words he speaks are pure words, which will definitely be fulfilled and will be realized. Zoro believes in this, just as in the original book. He believed that the Straw Hat Luffy would definitely become the Pirate King. Zoro now believes in Luo Xing. Sure, his heart trembled slightly. He had played against Zoro a few times before, and he knew Zoro's strength. This green algae head was very powerful, and he respects and believes in Lord Luo Xing so much. The majesty of Lord Luo Xing is really profound. Sure, couldn't help but feel a little grateful for his decision to join the 100 Beasts. Boom! Suddenly there was a huge muffled sound. The foundation of the entire Impel Down was completely destroyed, and all the masonry iron body was attracted to the body by the bullet. Bullet's body size is still increasing, and it has risen to 10,000 meters. The 10,000 meter high giant stood on the sea, and its head touched the clouds in the sky. Between the wave of the hand, the ground shakes and the mountains are shaken, and the waves are surging. This incomparably huge body, even CP0, Momousagi, T-Dolphin and others who are still on the way, can see clearly from a distance. Momousagi's beautiful eyes widened, she covered her red and beautiful mouth, and said softly, "This. What is this?" Gwing 176. Momousagi is shocked, like Luo Xing. The devil. A sword splits out of the straight. Momousagi and others are still dozens of miles away from Impel Down, but at such a distance, they could clearly see the supergiant standing tall from the direction of Impel Down. T-Dolphin Jiaji took a deep breath and said, "It is estimated that it is 10,000 meters high, and a single punch can easily destroy a country." 35. The boss of CP0 looked ugly and said, "This is not the most important thing, but the fusion of the Big Mac is all the buildings of Impel Down. That bastard bullet has put the whole Impel Down together." Momousagi and Chad suddenly woke up. In addition to the person with the ability to combine fruit, who else can this giant be? The terrifying descendant of the devil, Douglas Bullet. The former crew member of the One Piece actually escaped from the Impel Down, and even destroyed the entire Impel Down. The two admiral candidates were shocked. Impel Down is the most sturdy prison built by the world government and has been standing for hundreds of years. It is the best weapon to deter pirates, the Revolutionary Army and those who oppose the world government. But today, this weapon no longer exists and has been completely destroyed. 277. Once the news spreads, it can be expected what kind of turbulent waves will be set off on the sea. Momousagi's red lips spit out. The original intention of publicly executing One Piece's son Far-Fist Ace, the Five Elders and Marshal Sengoku in front of the world is to deter pirates. 99. Now that Impel Down is destroyed, even if the Far-Fist Ace is executed, it will not achieve the expected deterrent effect. Not only can it not be achieved, but it will obviously not have any deterrent effect, because the importance of Impel Down is far more important than a son of One Piece. Of course, the boss of CP0 also thought of this. He was speechless, and his heart was even more annoyed. After I go back, I will definitely have to be approved by the Five Elders again. Depressed, he instructed his subordinates, "Speed up, don't let those bastards do whatever they want." The warship is driven to maximum horsepower. Several people stood on the deck of the warship, still staring at the Big Mac transformed by Bullet. Since Bullet used such a trump card, he was definitely going to deal with someone, undoubtedly Wu Huang Luo Xing's gang. It would be great if Luo Xing could be eliminated by Bullet's hand. Really? I saw a figure as small as an ant compared to Bullet's 10,000 meter giant body, stepping on the moonwalk into the air. Is that the Five Emperor Luo Xing who invented the monster cells and all kinds of heaven-defying props and made Dr. Vegapunk feel ashamed? 35. Momousagi asked. CP boss met Luo Xing in Saibadi Archipelago, nodded and said solemnly, "It's that man." Momousagi's beautiful eyes could not help revealing an extraordinarily curious light. As admirals alternates, she and T-Dolphin usually follow the Commander-in-Chief Kong. Dr. Vegapunk, who is also based on Mary E. Joyce, is very familiar. She knew very well how advanced and genius Vegapunk's mind was, but that man was 10 times as talented as Dr. Vegapunk. He was simply a monster. Momousagi is inevitably curious. What kind of existence is that man? Seeing Momousagi's beautiful eyes staring at Luo Xing, the T-Dolphin beside him was a little appetizing. He likes Momousagi very much, and has confessed to Momousagi countless times, but he has been rejected without exception. But the T-Dolphin is still not discouraged, thinking that Momousagi will be moved by him sooner or later. Seeing Momousagi look at other men differently at this time, Char-Dolphin snorted. Bullet was originally a top-level powerhouse that could compete with Pluton Rayleigh, but now he seems to be stronger than before, and he has cultivated the fruit of fusion to such a terrifying level that he can actually fuse the entire Impel Down. The rumor of the Five Emperor Luo Xing is also very strong, but it is too much to deal with such a giant alone. 39. T-Dolphin looked at the boss of CP0. "Didn't you see this person not long ago? What is his strength?" CP0 Old Avenue, masters Conqueror's entanglement, and can compete with Pluton Rayleigh for a short time without losing the wind. However, the giant bullet is really too big, and the whole body is covered with armament Haki. It is really hard to say who wins and who loses. The T-Dolphin sneered more and more. Let's see how the so-called 5 Emperor Luo Xing will respond. Momousagi's beautiful eyes flashed a hint of helplessness. She could hear a little bit of taste in the T-Dolphin's tone, and she didn't like him even more in her heart. She just paid more attention to the man. Besides, that man is a pirate and has a wife. How could she have any relationship with him? Momousagi pouted, and was too lazy to say anything. His eyes fell on Luo Xing again. At midair, Luo Xing stood on the void, holding a sword. The Big Mac that bullet fits together does give people a great sense of oppression. In terms of size, this giant has surpassed the body of the blue dragon of the old father-in-law Kaido. In this sea, it is estimated that only the Elephant Lord carrying Zu on his back can compare the size of Bullet's Big Mac. Speaking of Elephant Lord, when Luo Xing subdued the fur tribe of Zuo, he fed the elephant owner 10,000 Momotaro rice balls, and finally made the elephant owner obedient. He then asked the Elephant Lord to go to Wonokuni. Today's Elephant Lord is guarding the waters around Wonokuni. If any foreign ships break in, the Elephant Lord will not hesitate to destroy it. Therefore, even if Kaido led the majority of the Beast Regiment and left Wonokuni to go to Whitebeard's territory, the safety of Wonokuni itself would not be a concern. Besides, Wonokuni and his wife Yamato are guarding. His wife Yamato and Luo Xing practiced together in the gravity room of time. Last time, under the anger, 8 trigrams was able to push the 4 emperors' aunt back, and the strength seemed to have already entered the ranks of the top powerhouses. If the couple use the fitting earrings to fit together again, the Big Mac in front of them can easily disappear in seconds. But Luo Xing didn't use any door to call his wife Yamato over. There's no need for that. He just wanted to try that move, a move stronger than the Purgatory, Hades, who killed Black Arm's Zephyr at the beginning. I saw Luo Xing holding his breath, using the ability to return life, which can motivate every cell and every hair in the body. He concentrated all the power in his body on his right arm. The terrifying conqueror's Haki poured out like Kuan Yang. Buzz. On the boundless sky, the dark clouds are gathering together, and the darkness is like a doomsday. The sea was also churning violently, as if a tsunami had occurred. And Luo Xing, who is in the middle of the sky and the sea, although his body is far less than Bullet's giant, but the majestic aura has raised his body infinitely, it seems that the world can't restrain him. Infinite black airflow roamed around him, setting him off like a demon. Bullet, who became a Big Mac, was still full of self-confidence and wanted to teach Luo Xing a lesson and regain his place. He could sense Luo Xing's aura at this time. His face changed greatly, and he shouted in disbelief, "How can this kid have such a strong conquerors? Such a vast conquerors? Bullet has only seen it in one person. That is his nightmare, the goal he pursued all his life. One Piece Gordy Roger." Impossible. Roger is dead. No one can ever reach his heights again. I am the strongest in the world today. The shock was followed by endless anger. Bullet roared, waving the giant's huge arms like a mountain, and slapped Luo crossing. Go to hell. Use your death to prove that Lao Tzu is the strongest. 39. Boom boom boom. The Big Mac's arm was too large, and it caused a hurricane when it was swung. The violent hurricane made the waves of the sea even more rough. Even marine warships dozens of miles away were affected. Momousagi's beautiful eyes were full of brilliance, and admiration appeared involuntarily. That man's Haki is truly the best in the world, the most Momousagi has seen in years. The T-Dolphin's face was a little dark. Seeing the splendor in Momousagi's beautiful eyes again, 5.4 was even more appetizing and even annoyed in his heart. But the next moment, he didn't even have the emotions to eat, only shock and awe. Because the man he was jealous of shot, the knife in his hand turned into a black knife in an instant, a black knife forever. The black knife slashed down, and it seemed to contain the general trend of heaven and earth. The man's voice came out at the same time. Purgatory, demon god, hum. The indescribable black sword wave with a length of several thousand meters ripped apart the air, the sea, and the sky. In an instant, the arm that Bullet controlled the Big Mac shot was cut off, and then it slid past the center of Big Mac's body. The aftermath of the black sword wave continued to stretch for dozens of miles. A deep ravine was left in the sea. It looks like a huge and unparalleled strait with a depth of 1,000 meters and a length of dozens of miles. This purgatory, the devil, not only cut the Bullet's giant in half, but also created the chilling straight moat. People who saw this scene were all shocked and shocked. 177. The world government that is being played around punishes Perona. Such straight moat, I am afraid that it will take a short period of time to gradually heal. Plop plop. The countless rocks condensed by the bullet fell from the sky. The 10,000 meter high giant quickly collapsed and fell into the sea with a bang, setting off a huge wave. Luo Xing didn't look at the waves or the situation of Bullet. He turned around and walked towards any door, while saying to Zoro, 8, come on, go to Saibadi land. The 8 was still in extreme shock. Needless to say, Zoro has more and more admiration for Luo crossing. Enlil was even more frightened. Luo Xing's eyes just passed over him, and he couldn't help but tremble. Shah of the Rain, who was smoking a cigar, completely put away his arrogant posture as the chief guard of Impel Down, and bowed slightly to the figure approaching Luo Xing. The old Jinbei, who was able to call out the mere 4 emperors, was also full of amazement at this time. As for the 4 vicious criminals who should have joined the Blackbeard pirates, including the King of Evil and the Crescent Hunter, the expressions on their faces were filled with awe. They finally saw the true strength of their new master, Lord Luo Xing. I am glad that I surrendered decisively. Otherwise, their current fate is estimated to be as dead as Byrnndi Waldo, Red Earl, and Bullet. Yes, Bullet is dead. Although Luo Xing was too lazy to watch it, the 4 evil kings couldn't help but care about 18. They just opened their eyes and finally saw Bullet's body that was divided into 2 halves from among the countless rubble. Luo Xing entered the random gate first, followed by 8 others. Then any door closed and disappeared, leaving only the still turbulent sea. Here, the original large prison on the sea surface, Impel Down, has disappeared, and only a few ruins remain. When CPO, T-Dolphin, Momousagi and others finally arrived here, they could not see half of the figure, nor half of the intact building. The boss of CPO is like pork liver. The worst happened. Impel Down was completely destroyed and all the guards including the warden Magellan were killed. And those vicious criminals were either killed or taken as subordinates by the increasingly terrifying 5 Emperor Luo Xing. If this matter spreads out, I don't know what kind of huge shock it will cause in the world. It is necessary to conceal this matter and not let the world know. The CPO boss said in a hoarse voice. I can't hide it. Momousagi said in a clear and sweet voice. It's impossible to hide such an unprecedented event. As long as you can hide from the world, I'm afraid you won't be able to hide it for a day. Look at the bird in the sky. Momousagi pointed to the sky with jade fingers. Only then did the boss of CP0 realize that a big newsman Morgans appeared in the sky without knowing when. Where is there a big event? There is this birdman. The CPO boss was very angry. When Morgans heard it, he immediately crossed his hips and laughed, because this bird's sensitivity to news is unique in the world. CP0 was furious, and murderous intent surged up. The chicken thieves Morgans hurriedly flapped their wings and flew away, screaming. The people of the world have the right to know these news, and your world government can't treat people as fools and blind people. However, Morgans was also a little bit beaten in his heart. If he really offended the world government, then his newspaper office might become very difficult in the future. Have to make up for the relationship with the world government. Morgans informed CP0 of a piece of information. You might as well go to the Saibadi archipelago instead of caring about the bird. This bird just saw that the 5 emperors Luo Xing used the door they called the arbitrary door to send all the criminals to the land of Saibadi. Hear this. All the members of CPO, Chadu and the Momousagi changed their faces suddenly. The boss of CPO was even more furious and roared. That bastard still wants to use the captured criminals to occupy the Saibadi archipelago. The strategic location of the Saibadi archipelago is too important for both the marine headquarters and the holy site of Marineford. The 5 elders and Sengoku must not allow this place to fall into the hands of the 100 beasts. The boss of CP0, with a gloomy face like the bottom of a pot, roared and hurriedly turned the bow of the boat and rushed to Saibadi archipelago. He has the stigma of being dog-walked. First, I went to Saibadi land and came back without success. Then he rushed to Impel Down in a hurry, but nothing was saved. Then I have to rush to the Saibadi land non-stop. Isn't this just playing people like monkeys? Yuang Luo Xing is so deceiving. All the members of CP0 gritted their teeth, but they were helpless. With their strength, they couldn't do anything to Luo Xing at all. Momousagi, as the most powerful woman in Marine today, and who is qualified to become the most powerful admiral in the future, is naturally intelligent. She roughly figured out Luo Xing's plans before and after. Show up at Saibadi first and lead Marine and the government to arrest. Another U-turn, aiming at the real target Impel Down. When Marine and the government rushed to send people, he went to fight Saibadi again. The so-called sound of the East and the West, but that's it. Play all the high-level officials of the government Marine such as 5 elders, Sengoku, etc. Momousagi couldn't help but feel a little admiration in his heart. Such a man not only surpasses Vegapunk in his inventiveness, but also has unparalleled strength in Haki. He is even more intelligent than a demon in terms of strategy, so perfect that he has no flaws. Too bad he's not in the Marine camp. Momousagi is a bit of a pity. Her suitors in Marine and within the government are too numerous to say, but Momousagi doesn't look down on any of them. The only thing I met today was a little heartwarming, but unfortunately it was the enemy. But Momousagi quickly straightened his stance. She can become an admiral candidate, not only because of her superior strength, but also because she is quite calm in mind. Momousagi took out a phone bug and reported the news that Impel Down would be destroyed and that Saibadi archipelago would be captured by the 100 beasts, to Commander Kong and Marshal Sengoku. At the same moment Momousagi was getting ready to call. Luo Xing, who had already set foot on the territory of Saibadi, also made a phone call. His call was to Perona. Moria went to the top of the battlefield, and now only the Kaidovs of Perona and Absalom are in charge of the terrifying 3-masted ship. Hey, who is it? Early in the morning, to keep people from sleeping. On the other end of the phone came the girl's dazed complaining voice. Luo Xing glanced at the high-hanging sun and fell silent. He took out any door and instructed Enel, Sharu and others, clear all Marine, 277, and other strongholds on Saebadi, and I'll go back when I go. After all, don't look back and enter any door. In a blink of an eye, he came to a pink-hued room. In the center of the room is a large, round bed. In the center of the big bed, lay a pink-haired girl with 2 ponytails. The girl's sleeping posture is very dishonest, with 2 bare thighs like white jade, with a bare doll sandwich between them. With sleepy eyes, her small red mouth was muttering to the phone bug, who called me in the morning and didn't speak. Ha, damn it. Just as nasty as that bad guy. 99. As he said that, he hung up the phone, and Perona was about to go back to sleep. Out of the corner of his eye, he found a tall man approaching her. Perona let out an exclamation. Her sleepiness disappeared, and she stammered, Lord Luo Xing, why are you here? Didn't you hear what I just said? Luo Xing approached, sat on the head of Perona's bed, smiled and said, it's unfortunate, I heard it all. As a subordinate, calling your boss a bad guy, you need to be punished. Perona huddled in the corner, opened her big eyes that were instantly covered with mist, and said pitifully, Don't hit me, Lord Moria, save me. 9. Luo Xing reached out and grabbed Perona's double ponytail. His voice became more gentle. Why would I hit you? I'm a flower lover, and it's too late to love you. Come, be obedient, turn around and turn your back to me. 178. The layout of the poor Perona and Luo Xing. The summit war is fully launched. Perona scolded Luo Xing in her heart as a hateful beast, grabbing her double ponytail from behind. Was she treating her as a horse? Bad guy, big bad guy. People are so kawaii and beautiful, but your actions are so rude. Do you want them to die? Perona was on her knees and buried her head in the pillow. The little bear that was caught between her legs before is now in her arms. Perona took the bear for someone, and his long nails tugged on it, making the bear's fur almost bald. After half an hour, Luo Xing leaves Perona's room. Now is the critical summit's war juncture. He can no longer stay as usual for most of the day. Also, Perona's body is really too slender, like a weak quicker, as if it will break with force. Luo Xing was also reluctant to hurt Perona too hard. His expression was gentle, and his tone was also very gentle to Perona, who was crying beside him, and said, I will always take care of you in the future. Perona floats in the air. Of course, her body has no strength to walk, and she can only leave her body. Perona puffed out her mouth, flattened her mouth, and turned her head to the side. HMPH, if people don't believe you, you know how to bully me. This pitiful and charming appearance made Luo Xing more and more fond of him. I really want to take Perona into my arms again and bully her. Her high-decibel cry was actually very nice. Too bad now is not the time. Luo Xing coughed and said with a straight face, what I've said has always been consistent. 95. Perona still looks cute and cute. Soon. Come to the wide square of the dread bark. Absalom the transparent fruit power, the evil Dr. Hogbark, and the army of thousands of zombies are waiting there. When they saw Luo Xing, they immediately knelt down on one knee and saluted. Young master. 35. Luo Xing asked them to stand up, and then glanced at the huge figure on the far right. This figure is 200 meters high, bigger than the huge battleship San Juan Evil Wolf. It is the fusion of Roblox Shadow and Dragon-level monster cells, the Devil Oz. The Devil Oz will be one of the most important forces that Luo Xing can use to guard the Saebadi archipelago and defend against the Marine and world government who are bound to counterattack crazily. Luo Xing gave an order, go tilde. The dread bark immediately set off towards Saebadi's land at full speed. This ship is too huge, like an island. It cannot pass through any door. Luo Xing let Absalom and Hogbaker lead the zombie army, and with Perona's spirit body, returned directly to Saebadi archipelago through any door. Perona's big round eyes widened, and her small mouth was open to the size of an egg. She finally knew how Luo Xing suddenly appeared in her room twice. The first time was when the random door was just invented. It turned out to be because of this strange door, which has the ability to cross the distance in space. Bad. With such rope door, can the bad guy go to her room and bully her instantly, no matter where he is? Perona's face suddenly collapsed and her head was downcast. I just feel that the future life is dim, and I will never be able to get rid of the clutches of the bad guy. Luo Xing ignored Perona's thoughts. After the efforts of Zora, En and others, the rest of the Saebadi archipelago forces were swept away, including Pluton Rayleigh and his companion Haki, who lived in seclusion here, have also left here long ago. Only a few civilians remained in Saebadi. Luo Xing naturally didn't need to attack these civilians. On the contrary, he kindly told the commoners not to panic, telling them that Saebadi land would be the territory of the beasts in the future. Then, Luo Xing asked people to gather all the civilians and send them to live in the last part of the Saebadi land, which is the safest place. With the important strategic position of Saebadi archipelago, Marine and the world government must not allow this place to fall into the hands of the beasts. Otherwise, Wouldn't this be equivalent to letting the 100 beasts hold a knife against the heart of the world government, so that the 5 elders, the mysterious Lord Yim, and all the celestial dragons will be able to sleep well in the future? So, after Summit War is over, Marine and the government will definitely try their best to retake Saibadi land. At that time, fierce battles are 100% inevitable, and Luo Xing has already prepared for this. Impel Down's criminal corps, Moria's zombie corps, each can exist as 1 against 10. In terms of ordinary troops, Luo Xing is not afraid of the world government. As for high-end combat power, Luo Xing is also not lacking here. Zora, Enel, Shuru, Jinbei, even King, Crescent Hunter, Big Wine Barrel, Huge Battleship, Demon Oz, and Luo Xing are 10 people. Not only that, Luo Xing also has a layout in New World. On Dressrosa, who is guarding the fire disaster in Punk Hazard, and assisting Jin, there are 3 Flu Bao, Fuzifu, Runti, and Pijawan. These 2 war bases would threaten Marineford's rear, preventing Marine from attacking Saibadi without scruples. Many of the backhands left behind have come in handy at this time. Luo Xing was at ease, not panicking at all, waiting for the enemy to attack. In the free time in between, Luo Xing looked at the big screen projected by the videophone bug. Above, the battle at Marineford is shown. With the arrival of the Whitebeard pirates, the Summit War started in full swing. After eating a fairy bean, Whitebeard's strength really recovered a lot. As soon as he appeared, and after a brief reminiscence with Sengoku, he slammed into the air with both fists. Click. The atmosphere is broken, causing air and sea earthquakes. The air and sea quakes triggered a huge tsunami that hit Marineford. If the tsunami did fall, the entire Marineford would be submerged in an instant, destroying most of it. The huge tsunami made the faces of the 100,000 sailors turn pale, and the rebellious Shikibukai called out their monster-like strength. Marine Hiragap even shouted, "Earthquake! Man Whitebeard Edward Newgate, this man has the power to destroy the world." Call out. In the face of this huge tsunami, when everyone was extremely nervous, a tall figure jumped from the admiral seat into the air and shouted, "Ice Age!" Tilde. The tsunami instantly turned into ice. The figure fell into the sea of Marineford harbor again, turning the sea into thick ice. With such abilities, who else is there besides Admiral Okiji, who has the ability of frozen fruit? Seeing Okiji's shot, Sengoku's old eyes flashed with relief. The reason he had kept Okiji in Marineford was to prevent the Whitebeard tsunami. Okiji did not disappoint him, as expected the successor he had long been optimistic about. To Zhao Zhao, Sengoku was about to give the order to attack when the phone bug in his arms suddenly rang. "What are you calling at this time?" Sengoku didn't want to take it, and dealing with the Whitebeard pirates was the most important thing right now, and the rest had to come in the back. But at first glance it was Momousagi calling. Sengoku's heart skipped a beat. He knew that the call was definitely related to Impel Down and Wu Huangliu crossing. Sengoku gritted his teeth, but was still connected. The Impel Down side is also extremely important, and he has to know the situation. Not long after the connection was made, Sengoku's face suddenly turned pale, and his whole body shook for a while, almost unsteady. I can't blame Sengoku for not being mentally strong, but the information reported by Momousagi is really too scary. Impel Down was destroyed, Magellan was killed, Shuru of the Rain rebelled, and all the criminals became subordinates of the 5 Emperor Luo Xing. Luo Xing even led those people back to Saibadi land and occupied Saibadi land. The news was like a thunderbolt from the blue, and Sengoku, who was always calm, couldn't come back to his senses for a while. 179. The shocking Marineford. Yanmo has become a black sword, and has been promoted to the supreme sword. Sengoku stood the dumbfounded, shocked beyond words. He could hardly believe his ears. But Momousagi can't lie. Impel Down is really ruined, Magellan is dead, and that nasty bastard even occupies the Saibadi archipelago. Countless thoughts flashed through Sengoku's mind in an instant. The first is the destruction of Impel Down, which will definitely cause an unprecedented blow to the prestige of Marine and the world government. Next is the occupation of Saibadi, which is equivalent to holding a knife in the heart of Marine and the government. This is an urgent emergency. Sengoku was furious, and Kakazu's mouth froze. But he still managed to calm down. Now that this is the case, if he is in chaos, the entire Marine will be in chaos. Then the war in front of you will be lost, and things will only develop in a worse direction. Sengoku quietly put away the phone bug. He wanted to hide the two news that Impel Down was destroyed and Saibadi land was occupied. He had to stabilize Marine's heart and deal with the Whitebeard pirates first. However, backfired. Suddenly, an albatross flew from the sky and scattered countless newspapers. No, it could be. Sengoku's pupils trembled violently. He hurriedly took a newspaper, and he felt dizzy at a glance. After a long time, he gritted his teeth and roared, "Morgans, you bastard!" Albatross is not an employee of Morgans, and what is printed in the newspaper is the two major pieces of information that Sengoku wants to hide. On the front page of the newspaper, there are two striking lines of bold characters. Impel Down, the world's largest prison with iron walls, was destroyed by the 5 emperors Luo Xing, sank into the sea and ceased to exist. The 5 emperors Luo Xing conquered the Impel Down criminals, occupied the Saibadi archipelago, and reached the heart of Marine and the world government. Add 2 lines of striking characters made Marine's eyes turn black. The 100,000 Marines immediately burst into an uproar and shouted, "Impossible, that's Impel Down. How could it be destroyed?" 95. Impel Down is guarded by Magellan and Shah of the Rain. Didn't you read the newspaper that the Magellan warden was killed and Shah of the Rain betrayed? What? Impel Down is really destroyed. The most vicious criminals detained there have joined the beasts. What should we do in the future? The sailors were terrified. What's more terrifying is that Saibadi land is occupied by the 5 emperors Luo Xing, which is only a short distance from Marineford and the Holy Land Marie-Joys, which will make us sleepless. The hearts of the 100,000 sailors began to shake, and even those elite vice admirals were full of expressions of astonishment. The flying squirrel stared at the newspaper in his hands trembling. When he was at Dressrosa, he glanced at the man from a distance. Who would have thought that in just a short period of time, that man would be even more terrifying than then? Shikai Bukai's seat. Gecko Moria giggled. He has already surrendered to Luo Xing, and he has long understood Luo Xing's plan. The female emperor Boa Hancock, who also belongs to Luo Xing's camp, did not pay attention to other things, but just stared at the photos of Luo Xing in the newspaper. Morgans took a very handsome photo. The moment Luo Xing slashed out of purgatory and demon god towards the Big Mac that bullet was fitted with. It shows Luo Xing's unparalleled haki and the spirit of looking down on the world incisively and vividly. The Empress was so fascinated that her beautiful eyes were dripping with water. The eagle eye on the other side has a shriveled pupil. When he learned that Luo Xing appeared in the Saibadi archipelago, he knew that things were not easy. Really? The man's real goal is Impel Down first, Saibadi land second. Hawkeye has no choice but to admire this strategy of attacking the east and the west. Over there in the white group, Marco had also met Luo Xing, and when he saw the newspaper, he couldn't hide his shock. Their summit war has just started, but that person has already done such a big thing. It's really aggressive and are moving like thunder. Although Whitebeard himself didn't say anything, he was obviously surprised by the wide eyes. Whitebeard thought, that kid Kaido, he's looking for an amazing son-in-law. 99. Whitebeard also noticed that the newspaper also wrote that Jinbei had also surrendered Luo Crossing. Instead of being angry, Whitebeard was relieved. He had a hunch that his deadline was approaching, and when he was on the Fishmen Island, he told Neptune to let him find a way out. Now that Jinbei joins the 100 Beasts, the Fishmen Island will naturally be sheltered by the 100 Beasts. As the strongest 4 Emperors group today, the 100 Beasts group is undoubtedly a great thing for the Fishmen Island. The entire Marineford battlefield was temporarily stagnant due to the major incident caused by Luo Crossing. Whether it was marine or pirate, they were all shocked. The Hirgap looked ugly and said, 5 Emperor Luo Xing, that guy almost killed Luffy and Saibadi, and now he is committing such a heinous crime. It is even worse than the Rocks back then. In the Valley of the Gods, Garp teamed up with Roger to bring down the Rocks pirate. Unexpectedly, 40 years later, a character even more troublesome than Rocks has risen again. Marine's 3 most powerful admiral, Okiji looked solemn. Kizaru crooked his mouth. The means and speed are terrible. Yuang Luo Xing, 35. Kizaru has already dealt with Luo Xing once, and he doesn't want to deal with Luo Xing again. Beating to death is not good for the waist of the elderly. It's best to fish in this summit war, which suits him best. Ake Ainu in the seat next to him is completely different from Kizaru of the old fritters. He has a violent temperament and upholds absolute justice. Damn it! Ake Ainu directly used the magma to turn the newspaper into ashes, and said furiously, destroy Impel Down and let all those criminals out. What will the world be like? 35. Ake Ainu was furious. He wanted to fly to Saibadi immediately and kill Luo Crossing. He stood up in anger, and when he saw the disorganized and demoralized sailors, he became even more angry and shouted, what are you all panicking about? It's just a bunch of pirates who are about to die. Meteor volcano. Ake Ainu raised his arms and launched countless magma meteors. Sengoku's eyes brightened. At this time of military chaos, it is time to use the means of killing the enemy to boost morale. Sengoku hurriedly ordered people to raise the sea stone wall of the port and lock up the white group, forming a situation of closing the door and hitting the dog. Boom boom boom. The magma meteorite smashed into the Whitebeard pirates, instantly smashing the pirates. Many pirate ships were directly destroyed. A meteorite even hit Whitebeard. Whitebeard held up Kong Yankee, a 12-handed swordsman, hit the meteorite, and said with a low smile, Magma Kid, at this level, you should go and light candles for the birthday cake. Speaking of which, there are now not only 12 supreme swords, but 13. The new one is the Yanmo currently held by Luo Crossing. When Luo Xing beheaded Bullet, the powerful Haki completely turned Yanmo into a black sword, making his level jump from a big quick sword to a supreme big quick sword. Go hand in hand with Whitebeard's Kong Yankee, One Piece Roger's Sabre Ace, and Hawkeye's Black Blade Knight. With the release of Ake Ainu and Whitebeard, the pace of Summit War is quicker than in the original New World. At the same time, another war of scale and lineup, no less than the top war, also broke out. The two sides of the duel, namely, Kaido and Big Mom's Four Emperors Alliance versus Red Hair Pirates with Double Emperors. 180. The Battle of the Four Emperors. Kaidovs. Redhead. Whitebeard launches an all-out attack at New World, an island in Whitebeard's territory. The three Four Emperors regiments faced off here. One side is the Kaido Ant League, and the other side is only the Redhead Shanks. Kaido carried the mace on his shoulders, laughed and said, "Redhead brat, you really came to stop us." Exactly as the old son-in-law expected. The Redhead and Beckman opposite looked at each other, and both saw a trace of shock in the other's eyes. Their actions were expected by Kaido's son-in-law. Could that guy really have the ability to predict the future? Even Beckman, who is known for his wisdom, felt ashamed at this time. The two took a deep breath and kept their composure. Redhead deep-voiced Kaido, "Kaido, aren't you willing to stop this invasion now that you know I'm going to stop it?" 35. Ha. Kaido laughed out loud as if he had heard some big joke. "Redhead brat, who do you think you are? When I was across the sea, you were just a kid on Roger's boat." In fact, the red hair wasn't as bad as Kaido said. Back then, the redhead was indeed a little brat, working as an intern on the Roger ship with Buggy. But Kaido is also an intern on the Rock's ship. Kaido was only 10 years older than the redhead, and his strength was far above the redhead at that time. But time has passed, decades have passed. The red hair became the Four Emperors at sea with the same name as him, and even claimed to have the strongest conquerors in the world. The strength of the two is actually indistinguishable. At least it takes a few days and nights to decide the winner. In the face of this situation in the original book, Kaido chose to retreat, not wanting to fight to death with the red hair. But now the situation is completely different from the original. Because of Luo Xing's foresight, Kaido has formed an alliance with Big Mom. This time, it's not just the Beast's pirates, but also the Big Mom pirates, adding up to tens of thousands of troops. In particular, the Giver Corps of the 100 Beasts has eaten Zone's artificial devil fruit and monster cells, and their breath is powerful like a beast. These people may not be the opponents of any one of the red-haired group, but hundreds of thousands of them swarmed up, and the consumption can also consume the red-haired group to death. After all, there are only a dozen or so of the main members of the red-haired troop. Even if there are 2 Four Emperors level powerhouses, Shanks and Beckman, Kaido and Auntie are enough to offset them. Also, Plague Quinn and Jack the Drow also came, both of whom had eaten dragon-level monster cells and could compete with the Four Emperors. If you use the fitting earrings to fit together, you can instantly become a powerful Four Emperors level combat power. With such a gap in strength, how can the Redhead regiment stop? Intellectually, Redheads should go away. It wasn't his territory anyway, and he didn't need to work hard for Whitebeard. But this time the Redhead was not for Whitebeard, but Farfist Ace, but Captain Roger's son. Let him repay Captain Roger's kindness with his red hair. The red hair pulled out the western sword from his waist, looked at Kaido, and said in a deep voice, "If that's the case, then we'll have to play with you." The sturdy conqueror's haki radiated from him. Click. A large tree was crushed by his conquerors, which could directly deal physical damage. Haki side exposed, worthy of the name of the strongest conquerors. But at this level, how can Kaido, the strongest creature, be afraid? Kaido slammed the mace on his shoulder to the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Kaido laughed proudly and said, "Come on, red-haired brat. Let me see how powerful you, who inherited Roger's will, are." Lin, Quinn, Jack, stay out of your way. Kaido stretched his body, and all the bones in his body immediately made a crackling sound like popping beans. With his huge body that is more than 7 meters high, a strong sense of oppression spontaneously exudes. The aunt's sharp voice laughed and said, "Kaido, you old boy still likes heads up." 95. Kaido has the title of the strongest duel, and is also a fighting maniac who likes fair duels. He hates 2-to-2 battles and being disturbed by outsiders. For example, when he fought against Kazukiden once, the clone fruit person from Kurazumi's family turned into the appearance of Momousagi, which distracted Kazukiden and was knocked out by Kaido with a stick. Kaido hates victory like that, and has no good feelings for the Kurazumi clan from beginning to end. In the original book, the CPO members intervened in his fight with the Straw Hat Luffy, and was beaten to death by an angry Kaido. He is the strongest creature, he is the Kaido of the beasts, and his victory requires no charity. Boom. Kaido moved, rushed to the Redhead. The 2 top 4 emperors will face off against each other. Everyone stepped back, not wanting to be affected. Thunderate trigrams. Kaido came up with the Thunderous 8 trigrams of conquerors. The battle between the 4 emperors does not require any probing at all, and it is a top-level move. The Redhead did not dare to neglect, and the western sword was also wrapped around Conqueror's haki, colliding with Kaido's mace. Black airflow and violent shockwaves radiated from the center of the collision between the two. The rocks on the ground were blown away, and the dark clouds in the sky rolled, cracking a canyon. The Battle of the Four Emperors. The sky is shattered. God avoid. 35. The red-haired conquerors was released into the ultimate, and a black-red slashing wave suddenly appeared. This is a slash that God also wants to avoid, and it is a move that Red Hair learned from Captain Roger back then. Roger used this trick to easily beat Kazuki and to vomit blood. Well done. Kaido let out a dragon roar, the mace wrapped a purple arc, and swung violently at the slash of the gods. Roaring Thunderate Trigrams. The Thunderate Trigrams are an enhanced version of the Thunderate Trigrams, capable of destroying a mountain in one blow. Add, stab, stab. The collision arc and sword energy overflowed. The wind and clouds changed color, and the power was monstrous. Aunt Charlotte Linlin also got itchy hands. She can't intervene in Kaido's fight with the Redheads, but that doesn't mean she can't fight the rest of the Redheads. Auntie walked over to Beckman and other members of the Red Group. Hey, come and play with the old lady. 99. The aunt raised her hands to the sky, grabbed the sun Prometheus in one hand, and grabbed the thundercloud Zeus in the other, and laughed shrilly. Fire in the sky. Thunder. 99. Boom. Endless flames and huge thunders crashed down in the hands of the four emperors. Such terrifying tanwai can be created at will. Although Beckman claims to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Redhead, he does not dare to slack off in the face of Aunt's flame and thunder. He calmly said to the members of the Red Group, "Spread away. Don't fight with this crazy woman, hold her back. It's better to find her weakness." Head-to-head with the four emperors is the worst option. Because of Aunt's soul fruit, she can create endless flames and thunder at any time, and the aunt herself is a natural steel balloon, and her defensive ability is even above Kaido. So far, no one has left a scar on Auntie's body, which shows that her defense is terrifying. But the aunt also has weaknesses, that is, the speed is not fast, and the reaction ability is too poor. In the original book, it was because of this that she was pushed off the cliff by Kid and Luo together. There's no way, if you don't add a few weakenings to Aunt, why would Kid and Luo, who didn't even learn Conqueror's Twist at that time, beat Aunt? It was through the bloated identity of the aunt that Beckman saw this, and then let the members of the Red Group adopt the roaming tactics. Here the battlefield officially started, and Marineford's battle on top was in full swing. Whitebeard jumped off the Moby Dick, raised his arms and shouted, "Little ones, charge with the old man and save Ace." Immediately, the entire Whitebeard pirates under the command of 50,000 to 60,000 pirates started an all-out attack. Going. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this and join my Patreon if you want to support me. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.